hold on. I am so bad at storytelling. What an amazing week I had in London, Manchester, and Birmingham. Such a great time with Jim Florentine. We decided to go out there. Black Sabbath was doing Back to the Beginning. Their final show, it was a goodbye to Ozzy and a goodbye to Black Sabbath, with Ozzy, Geezer, Tony, and Bill returning on drums, which is what all Sabbath fans wanted. I didn't even know if the show would go off up until the very end. So Jim and I decided to go to this final show in Birmingham. We hung out for a little while. We met my friend Louis Schaefer, who's a comedian from New York. Crazy. Maybe I should put my my glasses on and look at some of the photos. What? So London, we did the show. Went out to dinner a few times. Jim and I walked around like we really were like two middle-aged ladies. Oh God, it's so hot. Are you tired from walking? But the one thing we did in London, which was really great, and this was Florentine's idea, take your glasses off, stupid, is he said, why don't let's go to the house from there. It's a terrible Florentine impression. But we decided to go to the Maple Durham Watermill, which is where they took the photo for the first Black Sabbath album cover. A lot of people thought that was Ozzy standing in the foreground of that cover. Very creepy photo. She was an 18-year-old model named Louisa, and Jim told me that she apparently kept quiet for many years and nobody knew who she was. So we go there, and there's a video up. You can see it. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but it was a 2-hour Uber ride, and our Uber driver was kind of pacing and waiting for these two idiots taking pictures on a farm. Almost shit my pants in the Uber. That's a good little footnote story to tell. I almost shat my pants. So one thing in London I had to do was my wife's birthday was coming up, and I was going to be away, which is always a really nice thing to be on the road for your wife's birthday. What do you get for the tree that has everything? And so we happened to be walking around, and we walked by Buckingham Palace. And as you know, my wife is obsessed with the Queen. We couldn't take a tour, but I said, why don't I go and see if there's anything I could get her in Buckingham Palace? So I went to the palace and bought a few things. The official palace dog bowl, Buckingham Palace on the back. And Nikki actually thought it was broken. Is that broken? That's the white trash we are. We thought this was broken. A palace hand towel, because you're going to have to wash your hand after a nice watery dump, and what better thing to dry it on? Yes, my dear. A tacky Christmas tree ornament. Or I could say if Peter Dinklage ever plays the King of England, he can wear this. A palace bag to place things in. Some lotions from the palace after a nice shower to put on yourself and make yourself smooth and silky. The palace collection soaps. So if your underarms or your testicles stink, you can take care of them with this. Some more palace soaps. So if your underarms or your testicles stink and the first soap didn't work, you can take care of them with this. A book called Buckingham Palace. And I guess it's got pictures. Oh, yeah, palace pictures. I wouldn't know. I didn't look at it. Buckingham Palace, the book. Last but not least, this little trinket. This is a little pill box to put your, I guess my wife thinks she's going to be putting Klonopin and morphine in it. By the way, I got to say, Jim and I ate out a lot. The food was amazing. Everyone says the people are rude. They don't like Americans. The food sucks. The people couldn't have been nicer. And the food, we did not have a bad meal. Even the little truck in Birmingham outside of the hotel, we were just getting like chicken fajitas at 2 a.m. Phenomenal. How hateable is that I just did that? And then we finally went to Birmingham 2 days before the show. And the first thing we see is the Black Sabbath mural. It was right outside the train station. Of course, we went and took pictures in front of the Sabbath mural. I'm so fat. What is this? But it was really great because it wasn't that crowded. So Jim and I took a bunch of pictures, a beautiful mural of the band right outside the train station. Inside the train station, there's the Ozzy bull. It's a giant bull, and they call it the Ozzy bull. And I said, made my little joke, which was Ozzy the bull and Jim the cuck. And then we see the Black Sabbath bench is a block from our hotel. There's this great bench. It's got Ozzy, Tony, I think Bill Geezer or Geezer Bill, I don't remember. It's a great bench on the Sabbath bridge that they dedicated to Sabbath in Birmingham. Jim and I took pictures. We waited in line for like 25 minutes. We really are non-celebrity idiots. And I took one, and I'm just kind of sitting there all frumpy. And then I got behind it like I'm going to fool anybody. This is what fatzos do when we take a picture. You get behind it and you prop your head up like, no one will know I'm a fat idiot. Everyone knows You're a fat idiot. So we were on our way back to the hotel, and I'm like, what should we do now? And we decided what better thing to do than go see where Ozzy grew up. So Jim and I took a drive to Ozzy's boyhood home and stood in front of it and took photos. And some poor people inside are probably like, why are these two white trash idiots standing in front of our house? And then we're like, let's go back to the hotel. But first, let's see where Geezer Butler got his first erection. So we went to Geezer Butler's house when he was a boy and took photos in front of it, and people hated us for doing it. And the Uber driver had to wait, and my credit card was failing. It was a long, ugly day. We also decided we wanted to go to the Ozzy Osborne Museum. There was a museum dedicated to Ozzy's career and to his life. It wasn't that big. It was like one giant room. So Jim and I went there with all these other animals and had my first museum experience in many years. And we took a lot of photos. There was a lot of Ozzy's awards, some pictures of Ozzy and Black Sabbath I'd never seen, and a great Sabbath painting that I wanted to buy. Place here. There was a mall. They had a bunch of Sabbath exclusive merchandise in this mall. And there was a giant Ozzy made of Legos, which was so cool. Ozzy's hands were up. So we looked at all the Ozzy merchandise. I bought an Ozzy jacket. I'm not going to show it off. And the last thing I want to do is come off like some stupid traveling fanboy. And to answer your question, no, it was not $300. It was almost 500 pounds, which is kind of what I look like I'm blowing up into. Fat the piggy boy. Very appropriate, by the way. I have to take this little tag off. It says Alpha Industries. How appropriate. So we went to the store. I'm trying to think if I bought anything else there. There was a couple of really great shirts, but I think they didn't have the size I wanted. So this was the only thing I actually bought from the store. It's a department store. They have a Black Sabbath section. It's everything a mall should be. And there was a nice little display where they were just showing old Sabbath footage. When you walk into the mall, you could actually see they had video of Ozzy and Zach. It was a fine Black Sabbath mall experience. But again, the jacket's a little warm. I probably don't need to wear it for the entire video. Whew! Much better. The last thing I want to do is be wearing something too warm in the summer like a total ass. How fantastic is this? Why am I wearing this? Because Jim and I, right from that mall, decide let's go to the venue and pick up some merch a day early. So we get to the Villa Park and we see a very, very long merchandise line. We figured it'd be 5 minutes. We get there. There's a line wrapped around, and then the area waiting to get on the line is wrapped around. But Jim and I said to hell with it, and we got on the line. And I wound up getting some really great merchandise. I don't want to put the shirt back on, but the shirt that I was wearing before, this is the one I was talking about. And it was really hot, but we had waited for a long time. And I also bought another shirt. Again, I'll show it to you later. All right, I'll show it to you now. This one. I'm actually breathing hard from changing shirts. Now, I know you might say, Jim, what did you carry them in? Did you have to lug them in your hand? No, I didn't. Look at that. A Black Sabbath, back to the beginning, shirt-carrying merchandise bag, which, by the way, does not come with a purchase, and I bought it so I could just carry my stuff around. This should have come with purchase, but it didn't. Break in the video. I forgot to mention, I got these special edition, limited number Black Sabbath Ozzy sneakers. The Osbornes gave me these. Look at this. It says Birmingham right there. Villa Park. They are numbered, and it says Ozzy Osborne on there. Look at that. It's got a little bat. There's a little bat inside. Now, back to the video. So we buy our merchandise, we go back to the hotel, and I wind up texting my friend Michael, who works for Sharon Osbourne's office, and I'm just saying, hey, what's going on for tomorrow? I wanted to make sure we had passes if everything's okay, because we did it. We bought tickets. It was a charity event. And he goes, well, there's rehearsals tonight, and Sharon's going to go over there. And I'm like, Jim, do you want to go right back to the venue and watch rehearsals? And he said, I don't know, should we? I mean, we were just there. So we immediately hop back into a taxi and go right back to Villa Park to watch rehearsals. Of course, I go to the wrong gate. We have to walk around the entire thing. So we got a great rehearsal badge. We got a wristband. How stupid am I talking into camera? So we kind of had full stage access for the rehearsals. We did not get to see Guns N' Roses, Metallica, or Sabbath rehearse because they had done their sound checks the day before. I think GNR actually did it the morning of the show because they were away. We watched Steven Tyler rehearse. We also got to see Dave Draymond from Disturbed, Sammy Hagar, Phil and Rex from Pantera. We got to see a lot of great sound checks. Jake E. Lee, who no one has heard from a long time in the Aussie world, showed up after 38 years. And it was my first time meeting Jake E. Lee. Jim, why did you meet Jake E. Lee? Well, Jim does a show on Ozzy's Boneyard on Sirius XM. And what do you do when a company gets rid of you? You go to Birmingham and do interviews for free. So we interviewed Billy Corrigan, who was such a great guy to interview. He has a very deep knowledge of music, and he's a fun guy to talk to. And he did a jam with, hold on, I should probably remember this, KK Downing of Judas Priest. They couldn't be there. Halford couldn't be there because they had a conflicting gig. Tom Morello, Adam Jones of Tool, and Danny Carey. Hold on, put your nope, not those. Much better. The old panty dampeners. Danny Carey and Travis Barker. Oh, yeah, they did a drum off. Chad Smith and Travis Barker and someone else. I can't remember who else participated. Look it up online yourself. We got to go and interview Phil and Rex in their dressing room from Pantera. Phil was great. We talked to him, so he comes over and he's like, I hear you guys are comedians. And we're like, yeah. He's like, you're not funnier than me. And he's right. We weren't. Phil from Pantera is a very intense guy. One of the highlights was interviewing Maynard and Adam from Tool because those guys don't do a whole lot of press, and I had no idea we were going to get to talk to them. And it turned out Adam's a big comedy fan, so we had a lot to chat about, and those guys kind of went over their history with comedy improv. You know that they're big Bill Hicks fans. We came back the next day for the concert. Absolutely an amazing time. One of the highlights for me is as I'm walking backstage, James Hetfield from Metallica. Why don't I explain from Metallica? You know who he is. Looks at me and he says, I appreciate you. And we began to chat. And it turns out he had seen the Black Sabbath video. So Hetfield saw and liked the Sabbath video. He goes, I saw what you and Florentine did. So that was kind of like a big highlight for me, was that Sabbath video, because I know James and the rest of those guys are such huge Sabbath fans. The fact that James saw it and liked it really, really made me happy. So we finally get to say hello to Ozzy at the end because he was so busy. He's in this very crowded after party, but because I know him and I know the family, Jim and I were able to weasel our way up to the front. We said our hellos, and then all of a sudden, Kelly, who I had spoken to the day before, comes out, and Sharon goes, everybody be quiet. That's a terrible Sharon impression. Everybody hush. So this whole room, 300 people, shuts up. Kelly kind of looks like shocked. People thought this was staged, but it was not. I was standing right there. Kelly had no idea because all of a sudden Sid Wilson, who is Kelly's boyfriend, came over and he did the old drop to one knee. And we're like, this guy is actually going to propose to Kelly in front of Sharon, in front of Ozzy. And if you look closely at the video, in front of me, I was in the beginning of poor Kelly's got her proposal video. And then there's Jim Norton in his gray sweatshirt ruining it. And Ozzy was so funny because he gets down on one knee. Sid gets down on one knee. And Ozzy said something like, fuck you, you ain't marrying my daughter. And it killed. Everybody heard it. And I was laughing, and it was a really great time, but it was a very nice moment to be involved with, a very personal moment that the Osbornes just kind of shared with people. That was a great ending to our trip, was watching Kelly get engaged, and unfortunately, perhaps almost spoiling the video by visually destroying it, by being in it. But congratulations to Kelly. It was great to see Ozzy get all of the love. Everybody was there just to pay tribute. It was a charity. Nobody got paid. And oh boy, there is one band who got very greedy and wouldn't do the show. And boy, did Sharon let me and Jim have it. Oh, I've got so much tea, but you know why I won't spill it? Because I love Sharon and she'll tell you when she's ready. But she went over all of it and she was like, fuck them. Oh, was she not happy? The vibe of the crowd was everybody knew why they were there. Like the guy behind me was crying. I was almost crying because you knew it was like just a thank you to Sabbath and to Ozzy. That's all it was. None of these bands needed to do it. Everybody wanted to be there for one more time with Ozzy. Ozzy came out. He did 5 solo songs. Mike Inez was on the bass, who had been with Ozzy years ago. And when he came out with Sabbath, they did 4 songs. They did War Pigs, they did NIB, they did Iron Man, they did Paranoid, and they said goodnight. And I wish that they had all taken a bow together, but they walked off, and then Geezer brought a nice cake for Ozzy on the stage after. So the mood was excellent. It was a send-off to Black Sabbath in their hometown of Birmingham, and I was really happy to be there. So it was just, I'm so glad I did it. I normally don't do fun stuff like that, but what a week and what a night. Did it make me, good question, Mike off camera just said, did it make me existential at all, my hero getting old? No, because I was just happy for him that he was able to do it. I was really happy for Ozzy that he could do it. Like, I didn't feel sad for him. I felt sad because, hey, it's the end, but I was happy for him. Ozzy has done probably the amount of substances that would have wiped out a small nation. The fact that Ozzy is still here, we can all just enjoy that he's still here. I'm so happy those guys are all still kicking. That's all. I didn't feel sad for them. I was very happy for them. They could have retired 20 years ago and their legacy would have been cemented. The fact that they've kept going and the fact that they did this. Anyway, that's my whole story, my whole week in Britain. And I'm just so glad I did it. And me and Jim Florentine had the time of our little lives.